All right, we are live. We are live. We are live. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Make sure everybody can hear me. Right. Let's give everybody a second to get in here. All right. Let's make sure we are. All right. Yes, we are. Okay, cool. All right, everybody. What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Chris Belmont here of the Bakery Music Group. We don't just make hits, we build artists. All right. That's my new tagline. That's what we're going to go with for now. If you guys have any better ones, I'm open to hearing it. But at the early stages of building this company and just trying to just continue to build and build and build. But the Bakery Music Group, my name is Chris Belmont. We don't just make hits, we build creators. Okay. I am a longtime producer, 20 plus years in the game, record producer, beat maker, vocal coach, vocal producer. Okay. And we're going to be reacting to one of my favorites today. Brian Michael Cox. He sat down with the boys over at No Labels Necessary with brand man Sean. They did a great interview. I watched a little bit of it, but I just stopped it. I had to get on here and react to this with you. There's so many gems in this interview. For those of you that don't know who Brian Michael Cox is, Brian Michael Cox is a legend in the music industry. He's most notable for working with Jermaine Dupri with So Def, and he is the most recently behind the hit Money Long's hit Made for Me. And that's just the latest. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Mariah Carey. I mean, there's so many artists, Usher, so many artists that he's worked with. Legend in the music industry, excellent piano player, excellent melody guy, very good pairing with JD's MPC production with his keys. They're a match made in heaven, man. And you need that. And there's so many gems in this particular interview so far. I have no idea where it's going to go after this, but we're just going to react to it live here. And I'm going to make this accessible for you in clips later on. But I'm not going to talk too much. I just want to let you guys know real quick, those artists that are out there, you guys see the ticker on the bottom. If y'all are interested in growing as artists, I'm giving a free workshop. Okay. Free workshop, link in description. It will be there on the post. You guys check that out. You can guys go to Calendly and it will take you and book a free workshop. And I'll introduce you guys to what it is that I do even deeper. If you're looking to build your catalog, you're looking to become a better creator, you're looking to up your output completely, like 10x your output as far as creating songs, I have a system for you and I want to introduce it to you. All right. But without further ado, let's get into this podcast. I'm excited to do this with you guys. All right. This is Brian Michael Cox on Brandman Sean's show, No Labels Necessary. All right. Without further ado, let's get it.
You want the environment to be, seamless, peaceful, cool. The ideas got to start flowing. If somebody's arrogant or somebody acting a fool, I'll leave. You the one need to hit. So I suggest that you make your work environment and the people that's trying to get you to that point, somebody who's creative, keep it chill, keep it peaceful, keep it cool. You know what I mean? If it's cool, then that's when the ideas start flowing.
Boy came out swinging.
What's up? I'm Brian Man Sean. Corey. And we are back with another episode of No Labels Necessary
Corey, this is name, Corey.
Where we have...
My bad, Corey. I messed your name up. I've been watching you guys for a minute and I keep forgetting your name. What's up, Corey?
Amazing conversations about creativity, currency, and of course, independence, if that suits you. But today we have a very special guest, music legend, producer, writer, executive, Brian Michael Cox.
What's up?
Hey man, glad to have you here, man. There's a lot that we can talk about. Your career has been storied, but we got to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Mariah's Emancipation of Mimi, Chris Brown's self-titled Chris Brown, his debut album. We're right at 20th anniversary, so I want to start there, give a little bit of people context, and then we can jump around. There's a lot of questions I got for you. Now, Emancipation of Mimi. We were talking about this because we're young, so we remember that time. For us, it almost felt like the beginning of her career.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and the reason being, obviously, because the years prior, she kind of had a down period.
Yeah,
Like it was a lot of down period, breakdowns and things like that.
Yeah.
So like I would love to know, being a part of something that was such a massive comeback for somebody who was up here, went down for real, but became that what that project did. How did it feel? Like, was that something going through your head, or was it just like a regular job, or was there like extra pressure?
You know, I think for us it was it was just work. You know, we worked Mariah. You know, Jermaine obviously worked with her. You know, early on, he always be my baby. All those songs did in the '90s, and you know, from up until I met him and met her, and we worked on the Rainbow album, which was '99.
When it comes to getting to market in a more quick manner,
Commercials,
Popular
man.
Pace helps us move quickly and efficiently. As we all know, social media moves really.
I think there's a step. It was like there was an album before.
Yes.
Emancipation called Charm Bracelet. And Charm Bracelet, to me, that was the album that kind of was like the soft launch. Like I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, it was like a comeback, or it felt like it was like a Emancipation just came out of nowhere. But I feel like Charm Bracelet was like the lob, like you know what I'm saying, the alley hoop, you know what I mean? So Charm Bracelet was a platinum sell. Now it had 2 top 10 records on it. Like I think that she was positioning herself for what would end up becoming the explosion that ended up being Emancipation.
Got it. Now, I mean, can you share what was the part that you play in Emancipation? I mean,
well, yeah, me and Jermaine are collaborators, collaborators. So we worked on the music together, and then all of us together wrote lyrics. So we, me, Jermaine, Jonte, Mariah, of course, Mariah leading the way.
Shout out to Jonte Austin.
Concepts, write lyrics. So like just the creative process, man. It's like it's always collaborative, and just somebody sit at the piano or somebody sit at the keyboard, and Jermaine jumps on the drum machine while I'm at the keyboard, and Mariah starts singing melodies, and we start. It's just like I wish it could be like, oh yeah, this person does that. This person, we literally is collaborative. You know what I mean?
See, I'm gonna go off base for a bit, because the collaboration aspect of it, I feel like
go crazy.
Do you feel like collaboration happens to the same degree as it used to?
Yeah, I don't think it happened. I don't think it's happening at the same quality that it used to. But I think that it's because now like somebody may drop may change a pattern on a hi-hat and they get production credit. So it's what I mean. It wasn't that easy back then to get production credit. You know what I mean? So I think the whole industry is about
and this is the era that I come from. Getting production credit isn't like giving a word or getting production credit is being in the room. First of all, you got to get invited to get in those rooms. And then when you're in the room, you got to contribute. Like it's not just sitting back and then adding one thing. You got to contribute to this song. They're going to get into it a little bit.
Comes creatives. All they know what to do is to collaborate. I just don't think the quality of collaboration is as high. As it used to be.
See, because I have a little bit of a theory. I haven't thought about it in a minute, but a lot of the music we have these days, so you have the more industry, right, where you truly are working with people in studios, and then you have the aspect of like, I might just send a song over, never talk, never be in the same room. And then you got the outside, new kids coming up. I'm creating music in my room.
In my bedroom, yeah.
So there's no one around to give me feedback on if this is good, if this is better, or just tweaking your ideas.
So let me interject, right? Okay. You are absolutely correct when it comes to things like that. And when I use the word collaborate in for the new way, I guess the kids are doing it. A lot of times you're right. They don't be in this, like they're not in the same room. It's like they're sending files there, you know what I mean? Which makes collaboration easier, right? Like if I'm just sending you files, I know I'm gonna get a song back, and it's like it makes it easier. But I think that's why the quality is not the same. You know what I'm saying? Because when we collaborate with artists, we're in the room. Like I'm not sending Mariah MP3. Like you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I mean? Like especially not for the inception of the song. You know what I mean? Maybe we get a song on its feet. Maybe we don't finish it in that moment. Maybe she takes it with her, and what she'll call like, Brian, can you send me the files? And she'll finish it. Like I'm working on a project right now. This group called The Shies, Carl Thomas, Dave Hollister, and Selena Johnson. And Dave.
See, let me stop him there. So yeah, I agree with him because he comes from that era. He comes from the era of being in the same room, collaborating. Music is meant to be collaborative. Music has always been collaborative. I mean, you go back as far in history as you can think of, music has always been sung in community, for community, with community. It's not this new kind of like way of kind of like being in your bedroom and making music in a bubble kind of, and then sending files around. It, to be honest, there is something lost with that, but I think that there's something gained as well. What's gained is that it connects us with people across the world in places that are not in close proximity to you. So you're able to collaborate with people that, especially if you're on a level where you can't afford to fly out or they can't afford to fly out, you can collaborate still with people that you won't be able to touch physically. But there's nothing like getting in the same room, guys. Getting in the same room that's where music is. That's where the bread is buttered. That's where the bread is buttered.
Was having a personal issue. He couldn't make it to a lot of the sessions we had in Atlanta.
Right.
So I started with me and Jonte started with Carl and Selena, got some of the songs on their feet, and then Dave is now adding his vocals. You know what I mean? I'm not in the building, but we on the phone. He's sending me a file. So you know what I mean. So I think that's why I'm we're a little old school, so that's why it's imperative that Dave calls me like, yo man, I'm doing this vocal, put your ears on it, let me know what you think, and then I could give him direction. And but we come from a different era. Now I think what's happened with the collaborative thing is that because of what you described, people don't have to be in the same room. They just you in the bedroom, you send a file to somebody, you may upload a track on YouTube, and somebody may, I may even know you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I hear a track that I like, or what they do, they lease tracks now. You may lease tracks. I may not even know the person that created the music. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or I may not know the person who created the song, but I'm going to lease the track. Whatever, and whatever provisions are on the site, and however y'all get paid, it works out that way. But I think that's why the art of collaboration has been diluted, because if I don't even know you, I'm just, I have no idea what that initial idea was supposed to be. I'm just taking your idea and making it my own.
And this is why I do what I do, to be honest with you. I try to bring those two worlds together because, to be honest, my life has spanned those two worlds. I remember a time when we didn't have social media. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have ways to connect with people outside of our city and our proximity. The studio was the place to be able to connect with people. When I first created my studio, it was the meeting spot. It was a spot where you went to meet engineers, producers, musicians, artists, songwriters. Everybody collaborated in the studio. Now people collaborate on websites, or they collaborate on Zoom. They collaborate in other ways. We gain access to more people, but what gets diluted is we get the room gets lost. The room is really where the energy it gets put into the music. It doesn't matter how dope you are individually. That mix of energy is what really creates these dope records. And I try to bridge those two gaps with my community. What I try to do is I teach a system that allows you to understand the benefit of both worlds so that you can leverage those two worlds. Don't forget the old school. The music that we love and we grew up on was built on what this man is talking about right now. But we do have to adjust to the way the world is today, and we have to take advantage of what's happening today. So I try to bridge those two worlds in my community. I'm not trying to hard sell you guys on joining my community, but join my community. You see the ticker on the bottom. But it's important. It's important to understand that, because I think a lot of artists coming up now since they're not from that world, they don't understand the benefits of being in the same room and being in a recording studio and creating together. All right, let's keep it pushing.
It seems like it's something too, right? Being in the room with certain people also, in terms of just like making you sharper, right? Yes. Like, oh dang, that bag that he has, I don't even know where that bag came from. You learn stuff from just being around other people. And I wonder if that, I don't like to be, I feel like I'm too young to get accused of, hey, you being an old head. But at the same time, people think a lot of times you're just dismissing new music when there was an environment. That's what it's more about. It's less about the artists themselves. It's more just about the environment better nurtures a different quality of music
I think
or develops the artist.
in general. I think that any type of, I think when you collaborate in any capacity, you know what I'm saying, it's better to be in the room, like where you discuss some marketing ideas. I like to, you know, even if it's a Zoom, you know what I mean, I like to bounce. You know, let's have a little banter, because that's how you get to the good stuff.
So let's do an exercise, and like to add an example. So what was your, because we mentioned Emancipation of Mimi, what was your favorite song that from that project?
Ultimately, I would say "Don't Forget About Us" is probably my favorite song.
Okay, so
Fire.
how did y'all come to that track? Like, what was the collaboration that?
You want more clients? You think you can scale your business on excuses? Drink this.
Created that?
I mean, it's a long time ago. My memory's a little foggy, but if I'm correct, we got a call. Mariah called. She called me first, and because me and Jermaine hadn't been working together, but went through a spell where I was doing my own thing. He was doing his own thing, and that's how I missed "We Belong Together." They did "We Belong Together" without me.
We belong together.
I got a call after "We Belong Together" was a hit. "Shake It Off" was a hit.
Shake it off.
And I was working on something. I can't remember what project, but I got a call, and Mariah was like, "Yo, you think you can come to Atlanta? You know, where are you?" So I'm in LA. You think you can come to Atlanta and work with me and Jermaine on a new song? I want to do it. I want to add a song to. I'm doing a deluxe. I'm adding some songs on this album. So I bet, let's figure it out. So then Diane called me, it was Jermaine's production coordinator, called me, gave me the rundown. So we go to Atlanta. I come back home, and if I'm correct, how it always starts as a conversation. Mariah always references records, so she'll always talk about like, oh, I like this song from so and so. Or she may bring like a stack of records, like a stack of songs, like, oh yeah, these are songs, let's get in this bag, whatever. So I
always tell artists, man, come to the studio prepared. Mariah freaking Carey, at the time, she's one of the biggest pop stars in the world, coming to the studio with her ideas. She wasn't leaning on nothing else but her own ideas, and she contributed and gave these men fuel.
Played this song, Melissa Morgan's version of "Do Me Baby." So Prince has a song called "Do Me Baby." Melissa Morgan famously remade the song in the mid '80s, and it was like a big hit for her. And she was like, I want a song in this key. I want a song I want something sultry. I want a song in this key. So okay, cool. So then you start playing around, and I started coming up with what the chords would be. When I'm coming up with chords, and we're all in the room together, and we have a mic. She has a mic, just like that.
Okay.
The tape is running, or Pro Tools is running, while we're trying to come up with stuff. And she's passed.
All right. Listen, guys, Pro Tools is running. They're in the room together. Jermaine Dupri, Brian Michael Cox, Mariah Carey, and I believe somebody else. And they're passing the mic around while Pro Tools is running. Okay? Keep that in mind.
Pass the mic around. Like she come up, sing melodies down, whatever, and then she'll pass the mic to Jonte. And Jonte comes with whatever, and she'll pass the mic to JD, and then she'll pass the mic to me. And then we just kind of pass the mic around until something starts to formulate. And it's like, okay, I like this part, that part, this part. And okay, well, cool. Now what are we going to write about? And then Mariah has a book of, she's always writing concepts. She's like, the butterfly notebook.
Butterfly notebook.
And she goes into the notebook, and then concepts come out of that. And so Don't Forget About Us started in that space. And then once we get a concept, now we have a melody, we have a concept. Now it's like, what words are we fitting inside this melody? And then people we throwing out lines, that line stick, throw that line, say this, they say it this way, and then next thing you know, it's a song.
It sounds like that process is.
I would love to hear that Pro Tools recording of them passing the mic around. That would be gold for a lot of songs, a lot of hit records.
Like egoless, because a lot of artists, when you hear
egoless.
Egoless. Like, because when a lot of artists is like, oh, this is my song or this is my part, and they don't want people to touch, but it seems like that's almost like fun. Obviously, you got to respect everybody in the room and have a little bit of chemistry, but it sounds like, y'all are just like trying to find it, whatever it is.
And what I found in my journey is that the bigger the artist I've worked with, the more humble they are.
I got to stop it there. Okay. This is something I talk about a lot with my songwriting community, my creators community. There's a term called the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Let's look it up. The Dunning-Kruger, right? All right. Boom. Here it goes. Let me share this with you guys. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay. The Dunning-Kruger effect is an effect by a guy named Dunning-Kruger, obviously. What he did is that he came up with this theory, right, that basically showcases the effect that happens when somebody is green and new at something. Let's enlarge. Let's do something here. I want to show you guys something. Now, I'm doing a terrible job explaining this right now. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna get my act together. Hold on. There we go. Here we go. Okay. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So you got the confidence on this end. This is where you start. Okay. This area is where you start. You know nothing. Competence and confidence. Usually when you first know nothing and you first learn about a subject, you're the peak amount of stupid. Okay. Unfortunately, no shade on anybody that I've ever worked with in the studio, but usually when a new artist comes to me to work with me in the studio, this is where they are. This is where they are. And this is where your confidence is almost, if you look over here, you'll see that it's a little higher, but it's almost the highest. Your confidence is super high when you first start learning about a subject. But once you start moving along this continuum and start learning more, remember, this is the competence section. You start learning a little more, your confidence goes down. Okay. Now, humility and confidence aren't necessarily the same thing. Now, confidence just means that, oh, I can do this. You have this effect in your mind where it's like, I can do this. I know what I'm talking about. But the more you learn about something, if you notice people that are really smart, they're very, very humble. People that have been doing something, if they're at the 9,000 or they completed the 10,000 hours and became an expert in their field, they're usually kind of along this continuum. The ones that show you how much they know are usually the ones that are around the area of knowing nothing. Okay. So when Brian speaks about the artists that are like the biggest artists tend to be the most humble, is because they're along this continuum here. Right. And once you start becoming into guru status, sustainability is the thing. This is where everything is at. Sustainability. And you're the most humble and you have the most confidence, right? You understand what it takes to make great records. You understand what it takes, the process of what it takes. That's why I call this company the bakery, because baking anything is slow, man. The ingredients got to be right. You can't, if you mess up, if any of you guys ever cooked or made a cake or made bread or anything like that, you know that if you get one thing wrong, it's not going to rise. It's the same thing with records. You get one thing wrong, you don't allow the process to move along this continuum down here of competence, you will not have a bread. It's not going to rise. The cake is not going to rise. You have to put all the right ingredients in there in order for it to rise. And usually people that are incompetent tend to have high confidence in the beginning, but most people fall off along this continuum because, it takes time, it takes effort. And a lot of people, usually give up in that space of time. But the ones that stick around and they get to this low confidence, when they start realizing, wow, there's a lot more that I need to learn. There's a lot more that I don't know. My confidence is low, and they start slowly moving up as they learn more. This is what Brian Michael Cox is talking about when he says the biggest artists in the world tend to be the most humble, just because they're along this continuum here. They're moving along here. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Don't forget that. It's a real deal. It's a real thing. All right, let's get back into Brian. I just had to talk about that just for a little bit because he just ignited something in my brain. All right, let's get back to him.
really interesting.
Really?
You know, you would think that, oh, you go in the studio with, you know, Mariah, she's like, you know, your first album, you know, she's going to be diva'd out. My first time working with Mariah was in 1998. She was the biggest star in the world, you know, and I had never worked with nobody that big, you know what I mean? And, you know, I don't know what to expect, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then she walks in the room and she's the most humble, most cool, chill, like cracking jokes and, you know, just fun, you know what I mean? So my experience, I'm talking about all across the board, you know, a lot of the artists that were not humble or were a little, you know, big on themselves, or artists that either had one record, or artists that just got signed, so they're feeling themselves. You know what I mean? You know,
Well, I told you,
but
just got signed, got one record. That's what I was saying. It's the very first part of the Dunning-Kruger effect, the know nothing area where the confidence is high. They got one win. They think they know shit.
For me, you know, like Usher, Mariah, Mary, Monica, like all those artists, they were already big artists, and they were just, you know, these people became my friends instantly, and they were cool. It was not like they made it uncomfortable. They weren't, you know, they weren't overly demanding. It's just crazy. Like you think people go get my song. You think, you know what I mean? Like you have this thing in your mind when you're dealing with people who are superstars. You think, oh, you know, obviously they have teams of people, you know, around them that's make sure that they're good, but it's not like they're like, you need to do that. You know, it's just.
And you know, one thing that I noticed when in the studio, to be honest with you, when I deal with artists and creators like this, one thing that I do notice is that behavior where you have the artist that's very demanding, very particular, very this, that, and the third. I used to think when I started producing that was the mark of somebody that loves their craft and somebody that really wants to like make a perfect type song. But one thing I learned along the way, that type of mindset when it comes to your music, where you're like extremely demanding, extremely picky, kind of like have this like main character syndrome, those artists usually have the most insecurities. And I think it's like a response to their insecurity. They have to kind of like make you anxious too about making this music perfect. And usually those are the ones that, again, are at that first level of knowing nothing, and where their confidence is high and they feel like they need to they need to be the main character in the movie when creating a song. When to be honest, music is collaborative. I mean, there could be on this song, somebody else could be the main character, not the artist. You know, the artist is the one that sings the record, but they're not always the main character in the creation. Just keep that in mind, okay? Usually that mindset is it's kind of like I'm not gonna say a trauma response, but I think it's more so like it's coming out of insecurity, in my opinion. So a lot of new artists try to stay humble, man, because it's a journey, man. Making music it's a journey, just like baking a cake. You got to learn it. You got to perfect it. You don't just learn it just by doing it a few times. You got to do it a lot to become good at it. All right, let's get back into Brian.
It didn't come off that way.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think when you've been in the business long enough, you understand the value of humility. You understand the value of, you know, your personal space being as stress-free as possible. And a lot of times that chip on your shoulder, that arrogant flavor, you know, that could breed stress.
Man, yeah, no, I didn't expect you to say that. Yeah, to me,
stress. You feel like the arrogant attitude breeds stress?
It can.
Like creates problems for the artist or breeds stress for them in what way?
Yeah, it creates problems for the artist, you know, creates problems for the environment when you're trying to be creative. You know what I'm saying? Like you want the environment to be, you know, seamless, peaceful, cool. The ideas got to start flowing. If somebody is like if the vibe is off, if somebody's arrogant or somebody acting a fool, I'll leave.
Yeah, no, that's
word.
Like,
Word.
I'm out of there. Like, nah, I'm out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't care how great you think you are, bro. Like, we're in this room together, and you need it. You need a hit.
Yeah, no,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you need it. You know, I'm gonna go write another song for somebody else. You know, this is what I do.
Yeah,
you the one need to hit. So, you know, I suggest that you make your work environment and the people that's trying to get you that's to that point, somebody who's creative, you know, keep it keep it chill, keep it peaceful, keep it cool. You know what I mean? If it's cool, then that's when the ideas start flowing. But if like,
okay, check this out. We just had a 42-minute meeting, and this.
Hey man, artists, keep that in mind, man. Keep that in mind, bro. You gotta keep it. You got to make sure the environment, not just the artists, but the people who the artists bring into the room, man. Just you got to be careful, man. The room is sacred. Room is sacred. When I collab with my songwriter Essence, like she's big on that. She's big on that. Like, nah, bro. Like sometimes artists will bring people into the room and you didn't know that they were going to be there. And it's almost like we got to go through a little bit of an interview process. Not nothing crazy, but it's just like the room is sacred. Like we are all here to create something memorable. We are all here to create something that we will change our lives. You know what I'm saying? So basically at the end of the day, it's important to protect the energy of the room. That's extremely important. All right, let's get back into Brian.
I've been in the studio with some really, really incredible people. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I think that is important to have a sense of course, you have a sense of order, sense of hierarchy. You know, there's respect. You know, I'm always going to respect artists, or I always respect, you know, who's in the room. You know, I'm never going to be disrespectful, but it's like, you know, we all have to make sure that the environment is conducive to what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I only ask because we had a producer on last year. I can't think of bro's name, so my bad if you see this, man. But he pretty much said the same thing you said, and they were cooking him in our comments. There's a lot of artists, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they were talking about how like, no, the producer is supposed to match the vibe of the artist, or it's the producer's job to kind of come in here and more so amalgamate to the vision of the artist. So you feel like the bigger picture is creating that working vibe together based on the situation.
It's a collective. I don't care what, I mean, you an artist but there are a lot of artists that don't need producers, right? And they, you know, those artists don't work with producers. So they can't be, they can be what they want to be. You know what I'm saying? Because they doing it themselves. So if a co-producer walks in the room with an artist who is a producer, who is a songwriter, and there's some tension, that is noted. Like, okay, well, no, this guy actually is, or this person actually is a full-blown creative force. They write, produce, so when you navigate that kind of situation, because I've been in a situation like that where artists who does it all, and the record label was like, oh, we want to put you with B Cox and that. And so I've been in that space where it's like, okay, as a producer now, I'm producing a producer, or or I'm helping another producer get they're artists, but they're a producer. Now when I walk into this session, I gotta walk in and navigate their space. So if they're on some arrogant, stuff at that point, right? Then I can say to myself, I can think, this is their space. This is how they, you know what I mean? Okay, so how do I navigate? How do I make them feel comfortable in this space? We all should be feeling comfortable. We all should be comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Right. As an artist, you should want the producer to be comfortable. You should want the songwriter to be comfortable so you can get your best work, because you're going to be going through a lot of writers, a lot of producers. If you know what I mean, people don't have to be there, man.
Yeah, it makes me think of this quote I saw from you. You said something to the lines of, all of your biggest songs came from conversations that you had with the artist. So do you feel like that initial conversation is important to making that talk about it?
I think that if I get a call to work with an artist, I would like to, I would prefer to, like, they say, let's do 3 days. I would prefer to do 4 days, because I would prefer to have 1 day of just us talking, chopping it up, kicking it. Because I think a lot of, like I said, for me, in every situation, for me, songs come from conversation. You know what I mean? And because these are your songs, like you know what I mean? If if we're crafting songs for you, you got to sing these songs, for the rest of your life.
That's how to make it authentic.
Yeah. You going on tour, you got to, you got to love these songs because you're going to get tired of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're going to sing them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And don't you blow up and you have to do 2 world tours. And you know what I mean? You're performing at the Grammys. It's just you're going to have to sing these songs over and over and over again for the rest of your career. You know what I'm saying? Beyonce has to sing Crazy in Love for the rest of her career.
Facts.
You know what I mean? It's like even Mary had to bring Be Without You back. She had stopped singing it for a while, and then she had to bring it back. You know what I'm saying? Like you have you start making smash records. Like Usher has to sing "You Got It Bad." He has to sing like so.
Yeah.
I always want songs to be an extension of the artist, especially if it's something that they can directly relate to. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, if we had a conversation about it and we wrote about it, you really that came from you.
Yeah, you just translate.
You just so that
This is why he's a real producer. This is why he's a real producer, real musician, real artist, creator, right? Because he understands at the end of the day, I have to get out the way, and I have to make sure that it's the voice of the artist, it's the mindset of the artist, it's the soul of the artist that's being put into this record, because they're the ones that they have to communicate and deliver this record for the rest of their lives, especially if it's a hit or a smash. They got to be the ones that's forward facing. So even though I'm bringing the sauce, even though everybody in the room has their moment to add to this record, at the end of the day, it's the artist's expression. So I got to make sure I'm getting my sauce from you, your life, conversations with you. That's really good. I like the way he goes about doing that. If you're gonna do 3 days with an artist, we're gonna do 4, because one of those days it's just gonna be a conversation.
That came from you. So now when you sing the song, when Usher gets on stage and he does Nice and Slow, Jermaine Emmanuel, that was through a conversation they had. When he gets on stage and he does Burn and Confessions, these are all conversations me and Jermaine and Usher had. It's an extension of him. So,
It makes me think about a quote. Because you had said something like Jermaine Dupri is a method writer.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And then also, how would you define your process in terms of a writer? Is it the same or different?
Well, a method writer to me, when I say it, is the person who's going to talk to you and get the story right. We're going to have conversations. I'm the same way. We're going to have conversations. In those conversations, something will click. So, for example, the new Ari Lennox song, Soft Girl Era, we were working on a record with her called
Vacancy. Soft Girl, wow.
And then the next day we came in, was going to start this other song, and me and Jermaine were working on the track, and they were passing the mic. I like the pass the mic concept because you never know what kind of melody comes from those situations.
Fire.
So we passed the mic around, and Ari asks JD, like, yo, what's the saying? Like, what's the conversation out here? Like, what do girls, what are the women in that you come across? What are they talking about? This and that. What's on TikTok? We just talking. It was like, the theme has been Soft Girl Era. That's the theme. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. And then just start writing a song. So it's like all of it to me is about that conversation. It's very rare that we just go into the studio and
hey, I'm Kate from Brooklyn.
This is incredible, man. This is incredible. Let me let this ad play while I talk. This is incredible because at the end of the day, this particular conversation happens only if they are talking to the artist, okay? Talking to the artist, and they're able to have a conversation about what's going on Twitter, what's going on Instagram. What are y'all girls talking about? Because there's a bunch of men in the room. We're not going to pretend to know what these women are talking about, what they care about. We're going to tap into the artists themselves, so that we understand what it is that you think the conversation is about, because we're going to make a conversation song. We're going to talk about a topic, something that concerns women, so this is the importance of having these conversations with your producer. If you're an artist, if you're a producer, this is the importance of having these conversations with the artist, because this is about being in the room, guys. It's all about creating in community. That's how you create songs that connect, not in your bedroom solo alone. You know, even if you create in that space alone, you want to be able to tap in with other creators that you can trust because you want to make sure the concepts are connecting. Remember, there's a stream happening. There's a stream of ideas. There's a stream of attention and consciousness that's happening in the culture. And you want to be able to speak to that. Either speak for it, speak to it, speak about it, put your own take on it. Either way, you want to be able to tap into that stream. Sometimes what's going on in your head, if you're not connected with other people, you could just miss the mark, miss the conversation. And I love the fact that they had this conversation with Ari Lennox and were able to create this song out of that. Because to be honest, when I first heard that song, Soft Girl Era, I loved it because I knew this is just, you know, this kind of toxic thing that we've been got going on in the past like 5 to 8 years with men and women in our community. This is just where the conversation is at when it comes to women. So, you know, they created a song out of that conversation, and now it's a hit. You know what I'm saying? It's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science at all.
Oh, something that we talked about is going to get written down. Whether we talked about it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Whether we talked about it a week ago, whether we talked about it yesterday, you know what I mean? To me, it's an endless stream of conversation. This is how we get to our songs.
Got you. Yeah, it seems like that prevents any like writer's block, right?
Yeah, I mean, and we've had writer's block in some cases, but you're right, it does. It's a really good exercise to keep the conversation going. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it's a really good exercise.
What do you think is the difference? Because you said a couple of things when it comes to like a bigger artist being more humble than a lot of smaller artists, or at least that artist who first got that hit, right? Mm-hmm. But then what are some other things that you've noticed to be a little different in terms of the levels, right? So like Mariah, you said she comes with all these tracks and everything. She seems really prepared.
Yeah.
Like, have there been things where you've just gotten to a studio and work with like a bigger and bigger artist, and you're like, whoa, okay, this is a different level, the level of preparation.
Yeah.
What are the nuances?
And usually when it goes, I mean, that's nothing too. A lot of those artists are overly prepared. Like you want to see with Usher. Usher is like vocal coach and lemon water, honey. Like he's doing 200 push-ups. He's, you know what I mean? It's and when he goes in the booth, he's ready. He's like, all right, I got the song today. I learned the song. I don't want to read off the paper, so I memorize the song. Like the preparation is more of a gift than his talent is ridiculous, but his preparation matches the talent, right? But then you have somebody
preparation matches the talent. His preparation matches. What does that mean? What that means to me is that he prepares on purpose because he knows that that's how he needs to show up as his best self at every moment. The preparation matches the talent. And I think that is extremely important. Usher is not Usher by accident. Not by accident. He comes prepared. He said he has his lemon water, his tea, his this, that, and the third. This is important. You show up as your best self every time because you're trying to be over there. You're tired of being right here. You're trying to be over there. Right. And these are the biggest artists in the world, but they still show up as their best selves every single time because they want to still continue to maintain their success. So that, it's intentional. Don't sabotage yourself, guys. Go at it as if you are the best. Prepare, show up prepared.
A 12-year-old Bow Wow, right? Who I was like very, very impressed with how he got down as a kid. Like, I don't think people understand the magnitude of like how gifted Bow Wow really is, right? I think that people get kind of caught up in, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? But I don't think people really understand how gifted that kid is. You know what I'm saying? Well, he's not a kid anymore, but when he was a kid, you know what I'm saying? And how he's a gifted person now, but I think people take it for granted because we've seen him for so long. Yeah. But Bow Wow's 12 years old. We do the song, or 11 or 12. We do the song, and Jermaine will put down the demo, right? And maybe me and Jermaine finished that first album in like 12 to 14 days, like finished. You know what I'm saying? Like Bow Wow happened super fast. The first album happened really, really fast. So Jermaine would, we would make tracks, and Jermaine would, we write songs, and then Jermaine would lay down the parts for Bow, and maybe do 2 songs a day, 2 or 3 ideas a day. Then Bow will come in at 11, 12 years old, listen to the songs, and he'll say, okay, y'all could go, y'all could go do whatever y'all gonna do, and when y'all get back, the songs will be finished. He's at 12.
Wow.
Fast teams
That's
need
crazy,
a fast
bro.
CRM, and that
12 years old, Bow Wow was doing that. I did not know Bow Wow was talented like that. I mean, I know he was talented, but I didn't know that he could, he took agency over his own music in that way.
info they need.
Pocket. Just
wow.
He had a thing how he memorized a song, how he learned a song, how he memorize it, how he go over and over again with it. Like it was like he was probably I don't think I've ever seen a kid like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, outside of not to the bad. Beyonce was that gifted. Obviously Usher was that gifted as a kid. Monica was that gifted as a
Beyonce's
kid. But
incredible,
I personally worked with somebody at that age when he was 12. I remember being like, ooh, where's this kid? Where did he come from? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, some people just, he obviously just had it. Like, he was too young. I know he had the experience with Snoop and all that. I know that too, but this kid just had it. You know what I'm saying? So some people just got it like that at 11, 12. And then, some people, really work hard at their craft and really work hard at prepping, and they really take the preparation as serious as the talent part.
That's interesting because, I feel like the more you learn, all the artists, well, many of the greats, right, who achieve a certain level, they have talents that the audience doesn't experience, if you get what I'm saying, right? That actually allows them to be at that level where, so for Bow Wow, you just talked about his ability to do that. For Beyonce, not that long ago, I saw this clip. It was just almost a montage of people basically saying she has just this ear.
It's ridiculous.
That's, you know what I mean? And as a fan, us creating,
and she's had it since she was a kid.
You don't even know what that means, right? Can you talk about something like that?
Just she hears it, she can sing it.
Yeah.
And sing it back to you 10 times better than the way you did when she heard it. Like she's had that gift since we were children. Like it's like really an amazing thing to see. It's like she could hear something, or hear a line or a lyric, or somebody could feed her a hook, or a harmony. Like she can hear it and then sing it. And it doesn't really take long for her to process it. It's like she hears it and then she could just sing it. And when she sings it, it's gonna sound like
it's like
Beyonce.
a drum line. Yeah, can't how to hear that thing back.
Yeah, it's gonna sound and it's gonna sound like Beyonce. It ain't gonna sound like you singing it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. When she sing it, it's gonna sound like it's gonna sound like somebody who know what they're doing.
I witnessed this, bro.
As far as hits are concerned, it's gonna sound like Beyonce.
While we on there, is there anybody else who had a?
Yeah, and I'll comment on that a little bit, man. I had the opportunity to engineer for Beyonce years ago. At this point, it's probably almost 17, 18. Well, hold on, 2025. Oh my God, no. It's about almost 20 years ago, when she was working on, I think it was B-Day. We were working on a song that didn't make the album, but I got to see this process up in my face, sitting right here next to me with a mic, and I'm running Pro Tools and recording her, and I'm just hearing the harmonies that's coming out of her, the melodies, extremely talented. And I truly believe every single artist out there, when you choose to be an artist, you're choosing to be an artist because you're talented, right? And it's something that you're talented in. And this is why we can't get into the trap of comparing each other, because everybody's talents are different. And I love the way Brandman Sean said this question. He said, there's always a talent that these artists have that the world doesn't see. And that's what gets them. That's what connects them to their ultimate greatness. And usually discovering what that little talent is comes within community. A lot of times when you're growing up and you have these talents, you don't know it's not normal to be like you. I work with a writer, and I tell her all the time, yo, that's a gift when you do that. Like what she does is she has this ability to learn the lyrics of a song literally after 1 or 2 listens to a song. And then she knows the entire song. Like she can sing the entire song, all the lyrics. And I'm like, that's what makes you a great songwriter, because you do this thing where you almost digest the song differently and quickly and process it in a way, and the energy in the song is almost like it's like a superhero, right? But the world is not going to see that. The world doesn't see your process of how you listen to music, create it. They only hear the records, right? But that's the thing. That's the greatness with all of you guys as artists. You all have something great about you. But what it comes down to is how you plug that greatness into the ultimate system, right? And this is why I have what I have with this system, with this creators collective, because what it is that you have to learn to connect that, and the only way a lot of these artists realize that they're actually talented in that area is when other people tell them that. And how do you get to that place? Other people have to tell you in community. If you don't have a community, you'll never know. You just think it's everybody. You think everybody's like this. You know what I'm saying? People that, you ever seen that movie, A Beautiful Mind? Like coming up, he just thought everybody understood math like he did. Nah, bro, you amazing. You doing something different. You know what I mean? But community is very important because it teaches you your greatness, and it teaches you how to plug that greatness into a system of delivery, which makes it into a business, right? All right, I'm gonna stop rambling. Let's keep moving.
Surprising talent, or just like little observation you had?
I mean, so many, man. Like Chris Brown was like, my first time working with Chris Brown. Just the way that he processes. It was crazy at the time. I think Chris Brown was really trying when we worked when I think he was like 14 or 15 at the time. Wow. We did those songs, Say Goodbye, Winner, all them songs. Sheesh. And I think Chris was already locked in when it came to like how he wanted to perform vocally. I think his voice was he'd already found what that voice was going to be, that what we know now as his voice. So when I think back to our sessions, I think our sessions was more about him learning how to write songs. Than, you know what I mean? Because I think he knew, okay, they give me whatever they give me, I'm going to kill it. He had the confidence, and there's a difference between being confident and arrogant.
Come on,
kid. Yeah. He was like just a man child. He's a kid. He want to play all the time. He's just dancing all day, and you know what I mean. But he had a confidence about him that, and he could back it up. You throw something at him, he pop. So I think in hindsight, I think that for him, our sessions were more about, okay, well, how you guys writing these songs? Like, what's the structure? And I want to understand that. And Brian, show me this, and you know what I mean. So Chris was somebody who I think had just that natural, ability. Bieber.
Interesting.
Bieber has a natural knack. He was really, I think Bieber might have been 11 when I did them songs with him.
I didn't even know you worked with Bieber. What songs did you do?
I did a song called Never Let You Go, but I also, you understand, Bieber was kind of like making his rounds. Like he was like, everybody was trying to sign him. Everybody's trying to work with him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he was making his rounds, and when Scooter would, what Scooter would do was he would bring him to like the studio and just hang out and like, hang out in sessions where if I'm working with, Mary or something like that. But Bieber would just be in the session,
chilling,
just like learning, soaking it up. And so,
guys, this is artist development right here. This is what you call artist development right here. This is the natural process of Scooter Braun is I guess his former manager, and he's literally bringing him around, trying to develop his ear. Watch the greats do what they do. Watch how the sauce is made. Watch how the bread is baked, right? And then you pick up things when you listen, and this is what development always is. That's why, listen, man, I keep talking about my partner, man, but when she first started working with me, she wasn't able to pay me my price in the beginning. So she sent me a long text message saying, I just want to sit next to you in these sessions so I could learn. That humility taught me that she did the homework. She wasn't 1,000 hours into her 10,000. She wasn't 2,000, 3,000. She was probably about 5,000 into her 10. So she understood she needed development. And that's why she's so great now, man. And I think as you guys, as artists, man, as creators, understand that development is just doing your homework, sitting in the room, being a part of creators and watching the way they create. Now you got YouTube. Now you got, you know, all these social media platforms where everybody's giving game. Everybody's giving you the sauce. You got to be a student of the game. You can't sit and just listen to records and think you can do what they do. Nah, you got to watch how this sauce is made. You know, back in those days, you only were able to do it by getting in the room. And listen, as much as people talk about it online, it's nothing like being in the room. It's nothing like being in the room. Being in the room is you feel the energy, the vibe. You see people's thought process. You see why they chose that melody instead of the other melody. You heard the melody that everybody was feeling in the beginning, and then you saw why they cut it and why they didn't go with it. You don't see that when people just talk about it Monday morning, quarterback it, and talk about, you know, you get a little bit, but it's nothing like being in the room. So place yourself. If you know producers that's really killing it and doing it, listen, man, just intern, man. Humble yourself. You know, I know you are an artist and you big time, you about to be the next big thing. Okay, cool. But go sit up under a producer, intern. You know what I'm saying? You don't got money to pay that producer. All right, how can I help you? Because you about to help me, because you placing me in the river, like I told you before, like the stream in which all of this sauce is made, and I just want to see it. I want to be a part of it. I want to learn, and I would give you value by maybe helping you get some coffee for these artists, some tea, you know, help you book your sessions, whatever it is. Do it for a time, not forever. You do it for a time until you learn, and that's called artist development, man. Artist development.
So it was there's actually a clip. It's funny. There's a clip of me playing piano and Bieber singing "You Got a Bad." Bieber's got to be like 11 years old. And it was like you know, like his Scooter brought him to, you know, to the studio. Like, yo, Brian, man, you need to see this kid. And you know, I was like, man, I'm impressed with this kid. You know what I'm saying? So like, he's somebody who has a natural.
Want to know the secret of authentic content that performs everywhere, not just social? Let's be real. Today's audiences can spot
who you couldn't teach him that. He was, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was in him. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't teach him that. So, but I've worked with some really gifted artists, some more gifted artists than not. Most of the artists I've worked with that you see on my discography, for the most part, extremely gifted. Everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like Brandy, phenomenal. Monica is one of my best friends, phenomenal. You know, I mean, you know, Money Long's ridiculous. You know what I mean? She's actually just one of those people that has had 9 lives in this business. And just her skill. Like at this point, you have to say that this person is she just got it. Like no matter what, like, you know what I mean? Like no matter, against all odds, no matter what, you know what I mean? The ups and downs she's had in this business, you know, before she was Money Long, she was going by her real name, and she, you know, had a couple albums out and was writing songs for Rihanna and all these different people. She's had some success in a lot of different spaces and has had some, you know, some trials too in this business. And one thing you can't take away from that girl is that she's one of the most talented people, you know, ever.
And Money Long is amazing, man. I'm a huge fan of her, especially because of the type of R&B she's bringing in this era. You know, obviously it's not 100% the feel of old, because you always have to update, modernize a little bit, but it feels like it's directly tied to that. And for it to get as popular as some of her songs have gone, because when people complain about R&B being dead or struggling, and then you have the other side where people say, nah, the talent's there, y'all just not searching for it. My response to the people who say search for it is, if you have to search for it, it's different, right? It's like, as someone who loves music, okay, yeah, I have to search, But that's not what we're asking for just to find an artist. It's like you're asking to have that same feeling as when R&B was just outside.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
It was the trend. It was where, you know, pop was pulling from. That's a different feeling when the R&B is just there versus you got to go look for it.
It's true. Because even back in, you know, when R&B was, you know, I guess the mainstream, you know, what you just described, there was still a lot of artists that you had to look for. You know, like, you know what I mean? If you say that kind of stuff was, I feel like was niche. Like you had to go look for an artist like Emile LaRue, or have to go look for an artist like Omar, or look for art. You know what I mean? Back in those days when R&B was, you know, top of the charts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I understand.
Throwback.
I feel you on that. Like I hear you on that, because it's kind of like, well, look for it. But I'm like, you know, you're right. If the artist you're looking for is still kind of a underground, it's like even more underground than the, you know, top R&B artists that, you know, that like Apple Music is trying to, you know, push. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, I get it.
Because I'm my age, I'm like, I experienced some of it, but I was still not too young to feel all of it. You know, it's just different.
Yeah.
Outside at a certain age. The only one of the few times in my life where I was like of age was when LMA's Boot Up came out.
Oh yeah.
And that was just outside. I went to Black Biker Week at Myrtle Beach and everything. These guys, you know what I mean, had their bikes, but they playing LMA Boot Up, coming from that, just going down the street. And it's like, that's what people are looking for. Like for it to just be like in the air versus in my headphones. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I was gonna ask, I mean, who are the newer R&B artists that you feel like put R&B in?
I was waiting for this question.
Who are you paying attention to that keeps you inspired?
That's a good question. I would say Lucky Day, Summer Walker, SZA, Bryson Tiller, who's been around. He's been around for a minute, obviously, but I'm not drawing a blank. Jack Freeman.
I'm not familiar. I got to check that out.
I'm drawing a blank. It's a good question. You threw me off with that. It's a great question. I did, because I have so many more names, but I'm blanking out right now. But I think those are some of the people. I think that there's a strong case for R&B at this point. New artists like J-Don, you know.
J-Don, there we go. Talk about it. J-Don. Shout out to J-Don, boy.
Strong case for it. I think that there are a lot of artists that want.
J-Don about to be that next one, y'all. J-Don, go check out J-Don. Usher signed that artist with L.A. Reid. He's the next one, bro. I believe so. I believe he's the next one.
Think bigger.
You know, that a lot of the fans want it. A lot of artists want to make it, and I feel like there's a lot of women really, really leading the pack. Leading the pack with that. I feel like that's the thing. I feel like women are leading the pack, like Summer, SZA, you know, Alex Isley. I think that women are leading the pack when it comes to R&B. Kehlani and
Raven just dropped a crazy project.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you know, Victoria Monet. And I think that the women are really leading the pack right now. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's some fellas coming up, but I think the women are really like, they're the ones that's leading the pack and really carrying the banner.
So, I mean,
100%.
You've been around long enough at this point to where I'm sure you could sometimes look at newer artist songs and see your own influence in it. I would assume, right? What does that feel like when you can literally see the direct lineage of like what you were doing all those years ago?
That's crazy. I mean, it's a crazy perspective. I think that also, you know, you realize that you stick around long enough. You know, you stay in the game long enough. It pivots. It's going to pivot back. It may not pivot back the way it was before. It's going to pivot in a new way. It's going to be a new type or a new version of it. But, you know, everything has a cycle. You know what I mean? I'm just thankful that I'm around to see this cycle start to come back, like the Money Long record and the thing with, you know what I'm saying? Seeing artists like SZA and artists like Summer Walker and people like, you know, who's even sampling our stuff and, you know, repurposing it. You know what I'm saying? It's just good to see, you know, good to see that I've been around long enough to see it, and I'm still young enough to to enjoy it.
Enjoy it, come back
I'm,
around.
I'm not like a decrepit old man yet. You know what I'm saying?
So that's what my grandma used to say to me, man. You wait long enough, you know what I'm saying? Things will circle back around. You'll eventually kind of see something you saw before. So is that even something that like you think about? Like, do you feel like you have it? I don't want to say down to a science, but do you ever feel like there's a point in your career where you can say like, oh, I see the sound kind of moving here. Let me start prepping for it.
Now I do. Now I'll say that. I say that before I probably didn't prep that way. You know what I'm saying? But when it shifted, maybe I would say maybe 15 years ago when it shifted, I wasn't prepared for the shift. I'm gonna let y'all, you know what I'm saying? And I had to really find my way in the mix of that. And I think DJing helped me find my way. I always was a DJ, but then I started really DJing around that time. And
I didn't know that.
Getting gigs and really, when you start playing music for people, then you can see how,
talk about it.
This is what's making people move. This is what's making people, you know what I mean? How people react to this.
I got to stop it right there. Hold
songs.
on.
Okay. All right. These are the sounds. All right. And I was able to really.
He went back to school. The hit maker went back to school when the shift happened. That's called humility. We talked about the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's humility right there. To be able to be like, not complain and be like, oh, music nowadays is trash. And there's you hear a lot of that online. But Brian Michael Cox, a hit maker in this industry, decided when the shift happened and he wasn't prepared for it, what did he do? He went back to school. He became a DJ just to listen and learn what was moving people now. That's beautiful.
Changed my perspective once the DJing thing really started getting going like 15 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Were you? Well, so you said you were always a DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so did you always have that in terms of like you actually pay attention to how people react to the music to gauge if I should really continue forward with this song or not? Or are you like just creating and then, it just comes out and you're done?
Well, before I would just be creating and it just comes out. And I would use my DJing for the benefit of creating. So like, if you think of, if you go back and listen to a record like Where the Party At, or a record like, Forever by Little Mo, or a record like Don't Mess With My Man, with Nivea, for me, all those things are a direct reflection of me just being like in my creative space, DJing, going through records, and what I mean. I wasn't necessarily.
This is why him and Jermaine Dupri work so well. They connect at the same place. They're both DJs. They're both people that study music. They're both people that know a lot of music and dig into music as a way to give them fuel for what they're creating. They're both connected in that way, but the way that they express their talents are different. Like JD is more of a rapper. He's more of a beat maker, drum man, sample man. Brian Michael Cox is the musician, the pianist, the melody guy, but they both meet at the same place. That's very, very good. That's why they work together, and that's why they've created so many hits.
At that point, DJing for people, I was more DJing for trying to get an inspiration in my room, right? Me going to do gigs started a little later. Like maybe, back in the day, I would do random things. Like I would, pop up at my man's, if DJ Mars is doing something, he got crate, you need to go to the bathroom and he got crates out. So then go to the bathroom, I'll DJ, I'll DJ for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? That's how I was getting it off before.
Yeah.
But then, around, I would say 2009, maybe. Because I think I might have started doing gigs
kind of late,
like doing like things before that. But I think around 2009, that's when it really started picking up. I started doing a lot of gigs in Houston. I started doing a lot of gigs here.
That's kind of crazy. He said 2009. That's probably like about 15, I don't know, maybe like 12 to 13 years into his career.
In Atlanta, then we started moving around. It just started, we were utilizing, because you understand that, there was a drought that happened when R&B music shifted and EDM came in and all these, and hip hop was already mainstream, but then rap just, exploded. You know what I'm saying? With Futures and the Thugs, it just went crazy. Yeah. So R&B kind of went to the back burner for a little bit. So, but I had a name. My name was big enough because I had done all those TV shows. I had those hits, from 2000, 2009. My name was big enough to say, okay, well, let's market you as a DJ. So that's what we did. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was able to like change my perspective of, okay, let me, I'm not DJing for myself in this little room trying to find a vibe. Now let's see how people vibe in general.
Word.
So y'all play everything, you know, until I found like my, you know, pocket. And then, okay, cool. Now I understand how the crowd works and the whole nine.
Hey, if you haven't,
that's really good, man. That's really good stuff right there, man. I loved hearing that because it's not about always just fighting against what's coming. You know, you got to be able to move with the times because people's tastes change. You know, even with food, man. Like if you notice, like there was a time when everybody started becoming vegan and everybody started getting on Impossible meat or Beyond Meat. And then all of a sudden you could have been this meat eater person that just fought against it. Like, nah, I don't care about that stuff, whatever. But what's happened? And if you are a cook and you want to sell food, like every fast food joint, every restaurant had to get on the Impossible meat and give yourself, if you're a burger joint, if you're a burger place, you had to start incorporating the Impossible, learn how to make it, learn how to season it, learn how to sell it, right? Learn how to market it, all that stuff. It's the same thing with music, guys. It's the same thing. Even though you've been in the game for mad long, you are a vet, you got hits under your belt, and the people that's coming up creating this new wave don't got hits like you have every right to be like, these niggas don't know what they talking about. Nah, he was humble enough to be like, bro, I got to learn. I got to go back to the drawing board a little bit because this is where the taste is at. This is what people are feeling. So let me see how I can incorporate this and put my own stink on it so I can continue to stay relevant. But it's not even about staying relevant, but it's more so about being able to adjust to the time because it's about people at the end of the day. It's not about how good you are. It's about how to connect to people and where they're at and where the world is going, you know, because there's a reason why tastes change. Somebody may come with an idea that's just better. Their idea connects and then everybody's on that wave and you don't want to get left behind. I don't care how many hits you had in the past. You don't want to get left behind. You want to be able to do what it is. So I love the fact that he said he went back to DJing. You know, it's what he started doing. He go back to DJing so that he can listen and watch the crowd and see what moves people, see what records he puts on and what records he has to keep on or what records he has to turn off real quick. You know, that all that stuff goes into production. All of that stuff trains your ear. It keeps your ear to the streets, basically, you know, and whatever that looks like in 2025, you have to define that for yourself. What does the air to the streets look like? It's not just looking on Twitter, looking on or X or looking on Instagram or TikTok. It's not just that. It's also getting in the room and feeling the energy and the vibe. You know what I mean? So this is all good game right here.
Oh, yeah. Was that something you learned from getting that perspective as a DJ that you took back to your production and your songwriting?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, you know, I started hanging out with, you know, DJs. I always hung out with DJs, but like really started meeting like big DJs, like meeting Kid Capri, meeting, you know, hanging out with D Nice and hanging out with, you know, Ruckus. And, you know, then when you start hanging with DJs, then it's just the whole thing becomes more clear.
What's the difference, right? Real quick. Like, because hanging out with DJs, obviously you've been hanging out with artists, producers. It's not like you didn't know any DJs.
Yeah.
But as a craft, and when you start hanging out with them, was there anything that you noticed differently about top level DJs and how they look at the music and think about things versus everybody else?
Yeah. I realized that I was just playing records. They are putting on a show. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it initially when I first got, you know, when I first started really getting into it, getting booked and things of that nature, I was just, you know, I was just playing. I feel like, I mean, I was, you know, doing blends and I was trying to, you know, show that I could even exist
in the space. Yeah.
So I'm going to focus on my blends and focus on my transitions and all different things. And I think I was overly
normal stuff
conscious of that when then I started hanging out with DJs like Trauma and, you know, I mean, I went to college with Drama and Don Cannon and, you know what I'm saying? So we those relationships started manifest themselves again and we started reconnecting and started going to these gigs and just hearing them play. I was like, okay, they're not just playing. Like this is a show. So I gotta figure out how to, you know what I'm saying, you know, merge all that. Because I still want to play the way that I play, but I don't want it to be boring. I don't want people to be like, you know, I want to get hired again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that shifted my whole thing. Like, oh, this is
put yourself in the position to be humble. It's one thing to actually be humble and be in your era of learning and soaking things up as he was when he was DJing, but he's also placing himself uncomfortably in the space to be humble. I want to put on a show, he said. I want to put on a show. I don't want to just do this transitions and things that I think is important. I actually want to do what the big DJs are doing, you know? And that he placed himself in an uncomfortable position, which usually is difficult if somebody that has achieved a certain level of success in an area, being in that in any form in life. I don't care if you like a musician and you want to start playing basketball. It's hard to be in that position where you're the one that's the rookie when you've been the vet over here in this angle. It takes a lot of humility to be able to do that. But people that are really about the craft, about the growth of their of themselves, personal growth, they can't settle with just not knowing or being left behind. They have to learn. They got to go back to those days when they were young and just learning how to do this thing for the first time. It's actually kind of fun because, you know, that's kind of like where I'm at right now with this. You know, I've been producing for 20 years as a producer and a studio owner, engineer, and I had to learn this media thing and to be able to communicate this game that I've learned over the years. And it's a little humbling, you know, as well for me personally, because I'm not used to being the rookie. I'm not used to being new at things. You know, I've been for so long putting in my 10,000 hours that, you know, I've gotten to a place where a lot of people come to me for opinion on how to do this. But now I had to like learn, in order to stay alive, man, in order to stay relevant, you have to be able to learn how to do something new. And the only thing that I can tap into that I have a lot of is my experiences, is what I have developed over the course of my career. And a lot of new artists coming up can benefit from that. So at the end of the day, that's my singular focus. It's not, I keep saying staying relevant because obviously that's something artists care about, and that's important to stay relevant because you want to connect. You want your songs and your messages to connect. But for me personally, it's more about, I just want to exist in this space because I love it. I love the music and I love developing artists. I love to see artists grow from just raw talent to businesses. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I know. That's what I've always known from when I started the studio. It's naturally, I've always been in the place where I've able to watch an artist's career go from nothing to something. So that's what I have. I feel like almost an unlimited well of knowledge when it comes to that. So why don't I learn how to repurpose what I do, not just in the studio, but I still do that, but also put it to you guys in a way, you know, social media and running this as you see on the ticker below, this, you know, this workshops and this community. I do this and I put myself in this uncomfortable space because it's new for me. Media is new for me, because I want you guys to be able to tap in and learn the things that took me decades to learn, right? So this is important, and I love what he's saying, man. I love the fact that this hit maker, freaking Brian freaking Michael Cox, bro, made himself uncomfortable and became a DJ so he can tap into what's going on in today's music. I think that's incredible.
The show. Anybody, you know, and then Jermaine, you know, Jermaine's my, you know, my best friend. I'm with him at all times. And when he's, you know, when he really got back into DJing and getting booked, that was the thing too. Like hanging out with him, you know, going to Vegas and going. He's a place. I was like, oh, this is a show. As a DJ, it's a show. Okay, I got it.
It's funny you say you don't want it to be boring, right? Your mindset is switching where a lot of times, obviously you want to hit, you want people to like your music, but you know, working with artists, a lot of times, sometimes it's more internal out. And they're not as worried. Some of them, I'll almost say, I don't care what people think.
Yeah.
But we've always brought up comedians where it's like, if you don't laugh, the crowd doesn't laugh. They kind of have to just say, hey, it didn't hit. It wasn't a funny joke.
It wasn't a funny joke.
It sounds like a DJ.
Same thing.
As close as that, yeah.
We're not the same, but yeah, but close. Yeah. Like, you know, you drop a record and he's like, oh man, I shouldn't have dropped that then. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Let me get up on that one. Hey, yo, you chilling? Yo, get your drink on. You know, figure out how to, you know, how to transition out of it. You know what I mean? That's nothing too. You know, when you as a DJ and you realize you may be going through a string of records that may not hit, the gift is being able to, you know, it's not to live in that. A lot of times, you know what I mean? It's to not be emotional about it and say, all right, boom. Let me go ahead and let me, you know, what records can I drop now to lift this? You know what I mean? That's the gift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the gift is like when you like, damn, I might have played 3 or 4 records in a row. That's not really. Maybe I shouldn't have played these records. You know what I mean? What's that 5th record that's gonna bring it back up, get your set going, and that's the thing I do it day in, day out. That's why I like me doing, and I do my party on Wednesdays, Ladies of R&B. The DJs we have, you know, they are, you know, like the most professional DJs. You know, they like the 2 of the best DJs in the city. Mixmaster David and Bowtie DJ, and
I dare you to let me build you a completely free.
They got it down to a science. You could tell when they get into like a point where they might be the party might be lagging. They might have played 2 or 3 records in a row. That's like, damn, I shouldn't have played those records, but they know exactly what to do to get it back. You know what I mean?
It's like an emergency bag.
Yeah, but also you do it day in, day. You know, they DJ 5 nights a week. You know what I'm saying? So for them, it's a muscle memory. You know, and as a DJ, you got to get. That's really where you got to get to the place where you have muscle memory. It's like, okay, well, you know, I know when it's not working. I know exactly what to do to make it work again.
I think he kind of asked the question in a way, but but now hear you speak more on the DJ perspective. How exactly did that affect your records? Like going back,
let's go.
Are you now like seeing the club as you write?
Oh, well, no, I just
a club song, but
yeah, it's just you want to write something that I do. How can I approach it? I want to write something that I know will get the public going, like subject matters that the public matters, that matters to the public. So being outside, doing the club, doing the, you know what I'm saying, talking to all these different people, you tend to know now what people want to hear.
Conversation.
You know what I'm saying? Even if it's in, you know, even if it's a small, you know, different clubs around, you know, the nation. And I make it a point to have conversations, you know, like especially if, you know, if it's a group of people I kind
what I just say,
of know. If I'm there, I get to talk to them, but they introduce me to somebody, you know what I mean? I like to have conversations because then you kind of start understanding what everybody's talking about and what they want to hear, the subject matter they want to hear, you know what I mean? And then, you know, you take it and you don't even really know how it's going to manifest itself. There's nothing to a lot of things you just file in your head. You know, we talk, file. And you go to the studio one day, you're like, oh, wait a second, I had a conversation with so-and-so. Oh, we could talk about this. You know what I mean? You know, and I'm always in my note, like my note app is ridiculous. Like,
that note app, bro. That note app on your phone is extremely important, guys.
I have so many. It's like so unorganized. I have so many notes and so much going on in my note app because I'm one of those people that like.
That is your petroleum, guys. That is your fuel. You're literally creating fuel by putting all of your stuff in your notepad as you walk around life and something jumps out to you. Turn your phone on, put it in your phone. Because you never know when you're gonna need some sauce.
Once I file something, if I walk away, I'm put it in my notes. It could be a random note, and it'd be like, "Where did this come from?" You know. But you know, it's always a good reference to have.
I think, you know, hearing you talk about the name that saved you basically when music transitioned, right? R&B went down. Because I was going to ask more specifically, like, all right, well, what was your process? But you said, oh, you were able to switch to DJ because you already had a name. Everybody doesn't have that.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I heard your name was Trey Songz last time.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you're behind the scenes guy, but he mentions you at the beginning. I'm like, who's Brian Michael Cox or whatever? Like, was that an intentional? Like, because it's not like you got a tag like Metro or a lot of these other people where their names are out in the front. Like, did you say at some point, I want to slide my name to brand myself?
I didn't do that. That was all him. That was literally like, you know, we did the song and we wrote the song and I did his, we actually were finished with the song. We did all his vocals, that was done. And, you know, Trey tends to talk at the top is, you know, that's kind of a trademark is he'll get to talking on the top of a song or whatever. So he was like, yo, I want to put something at the top of a song. Cool. And he put to my surprise, he put that at the top of the song. I was like, okay, well, we keeping it on there. You know what I mean? So, I'm not the guy's like, yo, man, say my name. I'm like, I come from an era where, I mean, it's not the era like there's not. Well, I guess it still is that way. It is for me and for Jermaine, it's still that way. But we come from an era where people know who produced it by the sound.
Exactly.
You hear
that's
something
my era.
that sound like a B Cox record. 9 times out of 10 it's a B Cox record. It's something that sound like a Timbaland record. Like Timbaland rapped and sometimes talked on songs, but not every song. So you could hear a Timbaland beat and be like, oh, that's Tim.
You listen to those drums and you know who it is, bro. You know who it is. You don't even need a tag, man. Your tag is just sound.
You know what I mean? Or you could hear a Babyface song and be like, oh, that's Babyface. It was very much so about the music being the identity, the music being the tag.
Yeah.
I think producer tags are necessary now because you can't really separate who's doing what. Everybody
talk about it. Everybody sound like each other.
It has the same sounds. Everybody's using the same 808.
Everybody's using the same kit. Everybody's using the same loops. Everybody copying off each other because there's so many people in this thing doing the same thing. So that's why you need a tag, because you're trying to be able to just shout in a room full of people that shouting too.
Everybody's, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to I think producer tags are necessary now, because like if not, I'm not gonna know who produced it. And sometimes, like I said, we spoke earlier about the collaborative thing. Sometimes it may be 6 names on it.
Yep.
As producers, and there might be one person that did all the programming, but this one guy dropped this one little sample in there, or this guy might have changed it. Like I was watching something. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the producer. It's a popular producer too.
Here's how I got my team to.
It's crazy how that works, bro. It's crazy.
Oh man, I can't believe it. But he was showing. They were going through like a session, and he was showing like the different parts of the session, and he was like, yeah, this the hi-hat, and then I passed it to the hi-hat was like, he said, and I passed it to my man. He juiced the hi-hats up. He juiced them up, and then it was like, he a hi-hat god. I was like. That's so strange. It's this guy, he added a like not even a full triplet to your hi-hat, which probably was just a button you used to use FL. And he's a hi-hat guy, and he probably got production credit on that, and probably got pieces of publishing and point like crazy. You know what I'm saying? For me, it's just like a person who
I mean, I don't know. He's a hi-hat guy. You know what I mean? As small as it is, it may have made the record, made it what it is.
Sit in front of the computer, sit in front of a room full of keyboards and go from top to finish. That was amazing for me to see. Like, yo, that is insane. So I understand why people have to put producer tags on records, because you don't know who did what did. You don't know what's going on. But the guy who juiced up the hi-hats, he run around telling people he made the record.
He made the record. Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God.
Meanwhile,
don't get me started.
Like you said, you recognize the music by so many of the sounds. I mean, obviously, Timbaland had one of the most unique.
Yeah, like for real. We were Swiss Beats and
he starts a song.
Yeah. So many. I can name all the artists. I mean, all the producers from that era. Irv Gotti had a sound. Jermaine Dupri has a sound. Puff Daddy had a sound before he could even jump on a record. You knew, okay, if it's like one of them old school samples with the it's probably a Bad Boy record. You know what I'm saying? It's just
funny how that's a Bad Boy.
It was a very, very distinct time, and we had to have, because here's the deal. It was bad to bite somebody. It was bad to
absolutely
like
talk
you know what I mean? It was, I used a really old school term, bite. It was bad to copy somebody. It was bad.
Hold on. What the fuck? Is biting old school? Like we can't say that no more? I say that all the time. I mean, you biting. That's crazy. I didn't realize that's like old school now. That's
somebody's style. It was, oh man, this dude's a fraud. He copied whatever. You had to find
your
Even
own
if you
pocket.
started out and was like, maybe you sounded like somebody on your first record, your first 2 records, but you got to figure that shit out because, you know, having your own identity, your own sound was the only way he's going to make it in this thing.
You made me think about something. So I saw this.
Not no more.
I think it was Jermaine Dupri when he was on R&B Money podcast, and he had called Jay-Z down to work on
Money in the Sing.
Money in the Thing, right? But the way that happened, he said he was listening to some Jay-Z song, and it was like the flow or cadence. It was something that Jay-Z did. He was like, "That's me." He's like, if he did that, that means he's
listening to me. Exactly.
He knows who I am.
Yeah.
And then he reached out.
Yeah.
Like to be so distinct and have your own cues where then you can hear it when other people, even if the audience doesn't know, right?
Yeah.
Like that shows me how different y'all were or how unique y'all
But think about this though. Think about how that even happened. All right. Jermaine Dupri is from Atlanta, Georgia. You know, the South, you know, in the 90s, the South was popping, but New York was being resistant to the South. Like nobody really wanted to get.
I was one of them. I was definitely one of those people that was resistant. I'm not gonna hold you. I ain't gonna sit up here and lie to you guys. When the South sound was coming in, I was like, what is this? This ain't real hip hop. This ain't, you know, R&B is different, but hip hop, I was like, nah, bro. Nah, not with this accent, not with this drawl. Yeah, you know, we about lyrics, we about bars. Nah, that's not what they was on.
Give it up. Right. But Jermaine is a person who he's a hip hop person. His dad promoted the Fresh Fest, you know, like he comes from the legacy of like hip hop. It's before him as a producer, before him as a whatever, you know, when you dance with Houdini at the Fresh Fest, you know, you are part of the hip hop culture. Right. So when you grow up in the 80s, everything hip hop is New York.
Facts.
You know, LA came later, but for the most part, everything hip hop is New York. It's Dougie Fresh, it's Slick Rick, it was Def Jam Records. Everything is New York. So you're looking to New York for that validation, right? Our generation was looking to New York for that validation.
That's interesting hearing him say that because from the perspective of somebody that's not from New York, and me being from New York, I'm a little younger than him, so I was a kid, but like. When you in New York, you know you from New York, like wherever you go. Because I was signed when I was 16. No, not 16. A little bit, like around 19, I got signed. But then I started moving around the country. And then anytime you said you was from New York, it was like a get out of jail free pass. You know, everybody was like, "Oh, you from New York?" Like New York was the shit back in those days. You know, and I didn't realize this that everybody. I mean, I did, but then I guess coming from the standpoint of a creator and somebody, you know, trying to contribute to the culture and hip hop. You kind of look to New York for validation. That's very interesting because I don't believe New Yorkers really age. Not that the sound has moved away from New York. I don't think New Yorkers really look to anybody else for validation. I think the new generation of New Yorkers are now copying everything else that's out there when biting, like I said before, biting was actually a no-no in our culture. So there's definitely, I have to figure out a way to have this conversation on here because New York City hip hop and the progression of Black culture and the progression of Black music that came out of New York City, there's definitely been a disconnect between the old heads and the new guys coming up now. And the new guys almost are creating their own way. They're doing their own thing now, not necessarily being mentored by the older generation. When I feel like that's the only reason why New York is struggling to be relevant worldwide again, as it used to be when hip hop started here, is because the older generation, for whatever reason, haven't embraced the new generation. But yeah, let me, you know, I'm going kind of far. That's probably a different conversation.
For a bit before we decided, yo, we're not doing that no more. We the South. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But before that, you know, if you're a musician, if you were a DJ, if you was, New York was your North Star, right? So
interesting.
Jermaine, at that point, had made a bunch of hit records and still wasn't getting like the respect from New York, like he felt like he should have been getting. Right.
And that's the thing. It's not that your records weren't good. It's just the fact that New Yorkers are just like that. Because remember, look at the way New York is. Look at the way New York is built. Like our buildings go up. We don't go wide. We don't have a lot of space in New York. So everything is like kill or be killed. It's a dog eat dog world. So it's hard to crack that if you're not from here. And it's hard to understand that if you're not from here. When you're from here, it's a rat race, man. People come to New York to make money. They don't come to build community. They come to stomp on each other so that they can get to the bag first. And I think that's the energy that a lot of people that's not from New York don't fully understand.
Right? He does the Sleeping in My Bed remix. This is how this is really indirectly how the Jay-Z thing even happens. Okay. If Jermaine doesn't do Sleeping in My Bed remix, the Jay-Z thing might not even happen because that's how he heard Jay. Sleeping in My Bed remix blows up in New York, goes crazy, right? DJ Clue makes
Sleeping in my bed, messing with my head, taking my place. I had to sing once on it.
Mixtapes. Mixtape culture's going crazy at the end in the mid to late 90s. You take other people's record, you rap on it. Mm-hmm. Jay-Z, out of all the beats, all the New York songs that was going on at the time, he decides to rap on Sleeping in My Bed remix. That's how Jermaine heard it. Jermaine heard it because he got a Clue tape and Sleeping in My Bed remix on it, but it's Jay-Z rapping on Sleeping in My Bed, and he's rapping like JD. Like he's doing JD's
his flow,
and then he's rapping like him. He's like, wait a second, like this New York dude is like like copying New York's copying my style.
That was unheard of.
Oh, okay. Instead of being offended by it, let me go do a record with this guy.
See, okay, that's the difference between somebody from Atlanta and somebody from New York. The New York dude, if that were flipped and it was Jay-Z was being bit, like somebody was biting Jay-Z's style, I don't know if Jay-Z would be that favorable to it and want to work with them. I think it would be some beef, or it would be some like probably looking down on that person for biting me. But I think since it's somebody from Atlanta seeing somebody from New York taking the style from somebody from Atlanta, it's different in Georgia. It's like a certain, I don't know, like you guys are just different when you're from there. You know, whoever's listening to this that's from there, y'all are not like New Yorkers. And I think that's the beauty of being from that area. I can respect it as somebody being from Brooklyn, New York, because I come from, you know, the era of no biting. So, you know, it was a no-no. So it almost puts a bad taste in your mouth when you see somebody doing that. But actually, for the culture, I think JD did the right thing and to reach out, because now we have this record as a result of that.
So when a client comes to us with an ask to launch an influencer marketing campaign, the process is pretty streamlined.
Man, genius.
You know,
that's crazy. That's crazy. So I actually remember, obviously, like Andre at the award shows, South got something to say and all that stuff. But I never thought about it from the perspective of the South was ever looking for validation.
Yeah.
From,
I mean, Jermaine was there that night. Jermaine and Brad performed at the Source Awards that night. Like it was that night. I wasn't there, but I can only imagine what the tension was, because there was a lot of artists from the South. The South was making noise. It was, you know, you had Outkast, you had JD and Pratt, you had whatever Dallas Austin was doing. Like the South was making some real noise. You had Luke, you had Ghetto Boys, it was a 8-Ball MJG. Like the South was actually potent. This is before like Cash Money and Master P and all that.
Yeah,
but it was potent. It was popping. You know what I'm saying? So you can just imagine they in New York already with a chip on their shoulder.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like Outkast and them already, you know, organized noise. They're already in New York with a chip on their shoulder. Jermaine and them up there.
I remember when Outkast came on the scene, man. Oh, my goodness, bro. They changed the game, bro. This is before Hey Ya and all that. Like this is, man, Big Boy and fucking Andre 3000 changed the freaking game. They just expanded the sound of hip hop. They expanded the sound of hip hop. It was like an energy I've never seen before, but it was familiar still. They brought back the 70s. What created rap, what created the hip hop culture, they brought it back and put it back into its rightful place.
They're already with the chip on the shoulder, like, because this is a New York award show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Source Awards.
It's clearly what's going on. The boroughs, it's like all 5 boroughs is in there. It's clearly a New York show, and Andre he meant that. when he got there and said what he had to say. That was like, all right, enough is enough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, man. I mean, look, you've been through so many eras and you reinvented yourself so many times. I remember when we had talked to, we had Ludacris, we had Timbaland on here probably like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And one thing he talks about a lot, even off camera, like just like reinvention.
Oh man.
Finding his way. Whenever I talk to him, he's like, he's now into like streaming.
He's really into it now too.
Really
He's really into it now.
His personal wave and bag.
Facts.
What is your personal thing now? Like, have
real quick before he finishes this question. Like, we're gonna have to talk about Timbaland, man. Like, Timbaland's doing something. Mark my words, man. Whenever I put this out, just mark this time. Timbaland is doing something revolutionary with this AI shit. And I know it's very polarizing. And listen, anytime something is this polarizing in the industry, we onto something. I remember this energy. This is the same energy. I'm gonna save my energy for when I react to Timbaland, because he's gonna go on live today at some point. But I remember this energy, and this is the same energy when auto-tune became a thing. And it's polarizing, but it's hey.
You found yourself, because you did obviously writing in the traditional R&B course, and that's always gonna mean you move to the DJ. But do you have a different thing in this era?
Yeah, for me, it's about nightlife and like hospitality business. You know what I mean? Like me, I have a party called Ladies of R&B that started like 7-8 years ago, and we've been building up, and now it's like the biggest part in the city. So my thing is taking something like that and say, okay, yo, how do we expand? Do we, do I want to take on the road? I want to take, like we become this staple of like, because it's natural for us, because we're R&B cats. I'm an R&B cat. So receiving the resurgence of R&B and then doing this Ladies of R&B party, it's been a big, it's been a blessing. It's been like my way of saying, okay, this is what I'm going to transition to. You know what I'm saying? And
Word.
Just building the brand from that perspective. The music part is interesting. Like I said, I've been in it long enough for it to come back around. So between the Ari Lennox records, the Usher's tour and his record, and Money Long record, and what me and Jermaine are doing with we're trying to just diversified in a certain way. Like we're doing a documentary on Magic City with that. There's a soundtrack that's coming with that. So it's like, yo, how do we maximize, these platforms that we are now a part of building? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's really the main thing. It's like, man, just staying active,
Yeah. What made you take the A&R position at Love Renaissance?
I felt like I could offer.
Do you want to close more deals as soon as next week, possibly? No. Now, when I say more deals, here's what I 2, 3, 4 times.
A sense of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Me and Justice had developed a really great brotherhood, and I know a lot of the partners, and we all very cool, and they're brilliant. Brilliant at marketing, brilliant at what they do from a business perspective. And I just think that sometimes artists need, I guess a unk or OG,
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I provide that for the team, you know what I'm saying? And, the fact that I'm still in it, I'm still outside, we're still making hit records. So it's not like coming from a space of like, the OG, they ain't making no records no more. It's like I'm still outside. Like I'm active. I'm just as active as
he was back then. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that I have all these years of experience behind me. So it's valuable to them. And then what's valuable to me is being able to really learn the new way of doing business, understanding how to catch a wave, understanding that it's not really terrible. I used to be like, man, I'm not finding an artist online. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I come from a talent show era, and come from,
Yeah.
but I had to come to realize, man, this business is different. Like the technology has made this business different. So you gotta come from another perspective. And what I can
Gotta adjust, man.
what I appreciate about LBRN the most is that what I've learned from them and learned from that brand is that the way to do business now, the way to view the music business, because it's, you know, it's different. And they are the leader, you know, they're one of the leaders of the new school in regards to that. And they've taught me a lot in that space.
Yeah. Was it easy for you to step into kind of this exec role? Or do you feel like you had to, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you feel like this role is still closely tied to your artist brand?
Yeah,
Or you
yeah,
find
100%.
yourself stepping in? Okay.
100%. The
You gonna
A&R
skip
role,
ahead a
I
little bit.
definitely, it gave me a little more structure than I, you know.
Role is structure. You're kind of being, you know, we infrequently hear creatives talking about they like to book the structure, but then
Yeah.
you're moving into this role where structure really
Yeah.
matters. And what's interesting about their model and what we hear indie artists saying is that they feel like artist development is dead, right?
Yeah,
Like
no,
artists,
they have it.
yeah, artists overwhelmingly agree that artist development is dead.
Mm.
If you can speak on it, what do you feel like Love Renaissance does in terms of artist development that is different from other labels, or do you feel like they're just really one of the few labels that are just taking old school?
Yeah, I just think they're one of the few labels that take the old school
Okay.
model. I don't think that they're doing, I don't think that they're like and reinventing the wheel. I think they're looking around, they looked around and said, oh, no, nobody's doing this anymore.
Yeah.
We could do this. It's easy. You know, we have, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like it's just, you know, we got a facility, we got studios, we got, you know what I mean? We have the wherewithal to do it, and nobody else is doing it. So let's do it.
And I think the cool thing about artist development and where it's at right now is that people are starting to realize the importance of artist development now because they see it lacking in the new artists, right? A lot of these artists aren't media trained. A lot of these artists don't know studio etiquette like that. A lot of these artists they're not even really trained musically like that. They just raw talent that came up on the internet, maybe had like a viral moment and they got signed and they're just out in the wild. And I don't even fault them as artists. They kind of fell into success. But once you start realizing that the fan can recognize the difference between a developed artist and an artist that's not developed, that's when you know we have a problem. So I like what Brian is saying now is that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know how to do this. This is what was done back in the day. So let's just do that because it's just so lacking. It's just going to stick out as a sore thumb. And the artists that come up under that will be so seasoned that we don't even need to kind of like figure out how to do it. Like everybody will just know, oh, that's a real artist. You know what I'm saying?
And then they became the best at it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? It's, you know, I just think that they saw a lack, they saw, you know, a void in the culture and was like, let's fill that void. And you got to understand, they were managers first. So they come from that. You know, that's what they did. They developed artists, they developed the whole thing. They were managers first. So that's really what in their bloodline. It's really just who they are.
Yeah, it's so interesting because even, you know, when I hear, I guess, let's say older A&Rs, producers and things talk about development, there are certain aspects of it where it's like, okay, I'm putting them in the studio, we're helping them craft the sound, we're maybe helping them find their voice, find their personality. But then even just hearing you early in the conversation, it sounds like a lot of that too is also just like, okay, I feel like Sean is a really confident speaker. You're not a confident speaker. I want you to go hang out with Sean and get lunch for a day. You know what I'm saying? Pick up on Sean's sauce, or yo, Corey can dress, you can't dress. Go kick it with Corey and ask him like where he kind of gets it. So is that still pretty much the model? Who can I connect you with in my life that I feel like is bringing something to you that I feel like you're lacking in, or is it? I guess a bit more. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You know, keep it.
Word.
I'm good, but you're only as good as, you know, as iron sharp as iron, right? And you know, the gift is being able, like you said, see somebody's strength, see their weaknesses, and pair them.
Get them together.
Accordingly, you know, your weakness may be this person's strength. This person's strength may be your weakness. Pair iron sharpen iron.
Iron sharpens iron, like I said before.
Just close it out. We got a few quick questions.
All right, guys, we're gonna stop there, man. We're gonna stop there. This was incredible, man. This was a great conversation. I had a great time listening to this entire podcast. Shout out to Brandman, Sean. Shout out to Corey. Shout out to No Labels Necessary. I love what they do over there. I believe what I do like connects really well with what they do. They deal with a lot of the I would say the experience of what it means to be an artist in today's like environment. And for me, I deal with the creative side. I deal with how to create these records, how to learn the hit making formula, right? And how to implement systems as an artist to up your output. Because if there's one thing about the way this industry is now for artists, is that your output has to be on another level. You got to make a lot of songs to get to the hit. And just working on 4 or 5 songs for a couple years, that ain't gonna help nobody. What it is gonna do is keep you stagnant. And so the system that I have created helps you not remain stagnant. It helps push you towards the type of records that helps you find your voice, finds your sound, and then eventually be able to connect with people like this that are in this video, you know. So having said that, man, we're going to close this out. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys. This is something new I'm trying as well. Always trying to, you know, switch it up and see how I can get this game and this sauce to you guys in a very efficient way. If you want to tap in with me a little bit more on a deeper level, you want to learn the ability to apply song math to your songs and records that are hit records, link in the description. You guys see the ticker on the bottom here. I am giving a free workshop to those of you that are interested in learning a little bit more. So click that link in the description, head over to the link page, the booking page, book your session. And man, I'll be hopefully see you guys soon. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Have a good one.